Who Wrote This Shit is a comedy podcast where three friends talk about bad books. Opinions are subjective, but if we hurt anyone's feelings, we apologize in advance. Also, there are times where we talk about graphic and explicit content. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Who Wrote This Shit, where we read bad books so you don't have to. And as always, spoilers ahead. I'm Erin.
I'm Juniper. I'm Hope.
And the book is called Dream Warrior, Dark Warrior Alliance Book 1 by Brenda Trim and Tammy Jolka. Trigger warning, there is talk of eating disorders, extreme depression, and suicidal thoughts. So if you're not mentally healthy enough to listen to stuff like that, I would suggest don't listen to this episode.
Also, trigger warning for sexual assault.
Also, trigger warning for bad plot.
At least there was a plot.
Kind of.
I'm just, okay.
We'll talk about it.
We'll talk. I will explain why I don't think this is the worst book we've ever read. Because we read Handbooks for Mortals, and that is the worst book I've ever read.
Quite possibly.
Yeah.
You know it's bad when you have to buy yourself onto the New York Times bestseller list. Which she did, allegedly.
Yeah, you might want to add that. We don't have a lawyer, so we can't make accusations.
Like, allegedly, she bought her way onto the New York Times bestsellers list. Allegedly.
Well, Hope, do you want to take it over? Tell us how many stars this book has.
Okay, let's talk about it. Brenda Trim. She loves everything fantasy and paranormal. She's written over 40 books with plans for many more to come. Her series includes the best-selling Dark Warrior Alliance, Midlife Witchery, hey, I like that, Mystical Midlife in Maine, The Hollow Rock Shifters, and Bramble's Edge Academy. Brenda creates worlds that feature dangerously handsome heroes and feisty heroines. With the help of popcorn and candy, she takes dragons, fairies, witches, vampires, and so much more, and brings them to life. She lives in Texas with her husband and 3 kids who fuel not only her heart, but her life. If she's not writing, she's reading, traveling, or knee-deep in projects with her husband and 5 sisters, Catholic or Mormon. She encourages readers to dream big. If your dreams don't terrify and electrify you, then they aren't big enough. So she's written 36 books, and her co-author, Tammy Jolka, probably, is the co-author of 21 books in the best-selling series, The Dark Warrior Alliance, a world where you'll encounter sexy vampires, shifters, dragons, angels, and demons who are fighting for dominance while seeking that one mate who carries the other half of their soul. Man. It's an action-packed, edge-of-your-seat, sizzling hot addiction from page 1. Her other works include 5 books in the Hollow Rock Shifters series, as well as several holiday novellas. Tammy resides in Texas with her best friend, she calls hubby, and their 2 sons. When she isn't reading or writing, she spends her time running at the lake, watching college football, go dogs, and going on crazy adventures with her family. As a breast cancer survivor, she has learned that each and every day is a gift and shouldn't be taken for granted. After all, there's nothing better than living a great story. She's done 29 books, and the 2 of them wrote Dark Warriors Alliance together, which makes up most of the books they've written.
Yeah, when I was looking up drama surrounding this book series, there wasn't anything. I found maybe 1 interview with both of them, and the only thing that was noteworthy was I think it was Brenda, who the main female character, Ellie or Elsie,
Elsie?
is based off of. Yeah. And because Brenda's husband died. I think her first husband died. Or he was murdered. So that's all I found on them.
That's good. That's fine.
They're pretty quiet.
Yeah, good. I mean, fuck.
Probably cute little Mormons.
Well, that would be why they make these books with so much sex.
I
Fucking
don't think
repressed.
they're Mormons.
Catholic, whatever.
I don't think they're Catholic either. Catholics would not write books like this.
Neither
They
would
sure
Mormons.
as shit would, Aaron.
They would
And
not.
I
They
have
accidentally
seen-
read
I
one
have
book one
seen
time.
your mother's giant garbage bag full of smut, so don't act like there isn't a market for this in the
Okay,
Catholic
she
community.
reads them. She does not write
Who do you
them.
think writes them? What's the dominant denomination of Christian in the country, Aaron? What is it? What is it? What is it? Mathematically?
None.
Mathematically, they write them.
Hope. No good Catholic is going to be a smut writer.
You said it had to
they
be a
will
good
only
Catholic.
be
Yeah, why would-
smut readers. They're not gonna write something with sex in it. I should know. I have a book written by a Catholic that I accidentally bought because it sounded interesting. There's no sex.
Oh, yeah.
If
that
there is
one
no
book.
God, I'm not kidding. If there is no mention of God 5 times a page, minimum, it's not Catholic. They ain't writing it.
Okay.
You're wrong.
That's
but
all
let's
I'm
go
saying.
on.
I am not wrong. As someone who was Catholic, I can tell you I'm right.
And as someone with eyes
Because
that
we-
see the world, I can tell you you are incorrect.
No, I'm right.
So the cover of Dream Warrior is kind of what you would expect. It's literally just like this stereotypical smut dude, and he has a sword that's a very strange looking sword. It's glowing, and I don't think he ever used a sword in the book. Also, this guy
He did not.
He looks like a pirate. They took a pirate picture, put it on the book, and they were like, well, his shirt's partly off, so...
Well, no, in the book,
Yeah.
he had leather pants. So they decided to do a leather jacket. But that totally is like a
Can't wear
pirate
leather pants
sword.
without leather
like-
jackets. Also, the handle of the sword, it looks a little bit like a crown.
Yeah, it
a
does.
tiny
See, the
bit.
cover just looks like shitty Photoshop. So that's the thing. Is I look at this cover and I see a book that should not be rated 4.5 stars on Goodreads, but god damn it, it's rated 4.5 stars on Goodreads and I don't know why. But probably because the Catholics came en masse
No.
to read it.
No.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
Look, there's not a lot I will defend about Catholicism, but I can tell you for 100% certainty, they are not Catholic. They did not write, Catholic did not write this. They do not write sex.
That's not what the issue is right now. The issue is all of the Catholics, the repressed Catholics that are coming en masse to read the book.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's what we're
I
talking
just
about.
don't want the assumption that Catholics
Aaron,
write sex
mathematically, you're just
'Cause-
incorrect. Like, aren't you
am
you
not
studying like
incorrect.
statistics or something? Aren't you
Yes,
like a data
I am.
analyst or something? Aaron, get your shit together. Oh my god.
Hope.
Go to
Do you want an example?
Go to
Let me
get
give
a
you an example.
master's.
Anne
Do
Rice. No.
your master's thesis on this. Also, Anne Rice writes a ton of smut, and she's been Catholic like 3 different
No.
times.
Here, I know. You can tell what cycle she is in her religious beliefs because the last time she was done being Catholic, she wrote the vampire books, and there was a shit ton of sex in there.
There's like borderline rape.
However-
in them.
Right. Anyways, when she went back to being Catholic because the vampire book stopped making her money. She started writing religious books. One of them was about the story of Mary Magdalene.
Yeah.
And yes, she was considered a whore. But there's no sex in that book. And it's strictly religious. It's about her journey finding her faith and finding Jesus. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I don't recommend reading it. But she has those cycles. And that's how you can tell she's in her religious belief cycles or not.
That's cool.
Based on the type of book.
Before my mom's church burnt down, I found an Anne Rice book in their library. And I thought it was really odd, being that it's a Lutheran church. And inside the book, I looked and I was like, isn't she a vampire? Like, famously a vampire author. And I checked it out, and on the inside, someone had written, Anne Rice doesn't do vampire anymore. And so it was on the shelf. Even though I would venture a guess that her book wasn't like historically or biblically too accurate.
Absolutely not.
All of this is anecdotal. I will say that on the cover photo, the dude clearly has blue eyes, but the main character in the book has green eyes.
Yeah, well, so did Harry Potter.
Ooh.
Okay.
Okay, but they didn't want to force him to wear eye-colored contacts because they irritate his eyes so you can go blind like that. So
I don't care about Harry Potter. This is
I
a
only-
pirate.
Dude,
This
they took
is
a
in
stock photo of a pirate, put a goddamn crown on his little sword thing, and
yeah,
put shitty Photoshop blue smoke in the back. Like,
so he has a guard for his hand, which is the usual, like, the handles that comes out to the side. But he has a crown on top of it.
Yeah, it's super bizarre.
Why
it's
does
like,
that doesn't make any sense?
yeah.
0 sense to me. Okay.
Okay, but that's like the least of our worries. Let's move on.
All right, so the back of the book says, the only thing standing between humans and the evil that would destroy them, the dark warriors of the Terrax realm. Vampire King Xander Terrakesh is domineering, battle-hardened, and seemingly unbreakable. Destroying demons is what he does, and what he does it, whoa.
And
He does it very well. But when a mere mortal finds her way into the realm and quickly brings Xander to his knees, this cold commander will find himself fighting in a brand new war, the one for his heart. Fueled by rage and sadness, Elsie Hayes has nothing left to lose. Avenging her husband's vicious murder is her singular purpose until she's teleported to the Terrax realm. Surrounded by violence, magic, and passion, she's faced with an impossible decision. Embrace her fate and the enigmatic vampire king who desperately needs her, or plunge a stake in the heart of the only being who could deliver her from her grief once and for all. Dream Warrior is the debut novel of the epic Dark Warrior Alliance series. This enemies to lovers fated mate adventure delivers high heat, thrilling action, and satisfying happily ever after. Perfect for fans of J.R. Ward and Laurel K. Hamilton.
First of all,
Know who those two are.
disagree on that. Second of all, just to be fair to Juniper here, you put dark purple on top of black text. And I can't
She
read it with my
picked the
glasses
purple.
on. I can't read it with...
She
Did
picked
you
the
do that to
color.
yourself?
I just said purple, I didn't say dark purple.
When we were picking colors, this is from the first episode notes. When we were picking colors, I asked you, Juniper. I shared my screen and I asked you, can you read that? Is that okay?
Well,
And you said, oh yeah, I can read that just fine if I get real close to the computer screen.
I think the problem is that my brain is not working right now. It is literally chemically imbalanced at the moment. And when I'm looking at
Don't-
these, the words change to different words.
And you see the smoke coming out where she's shorting. It's like she's having a little electrical fire in there. Some blue smoke.
Yeah,
just like
I can
wisping
see
out.
that. Okay, so should we talk about what happens in the
Oh,
book?
God.
Okay,
Do
so
we have to read the
I'm
whole
gonna-
thing? Because
I have
like
been
a lot
given
of
the feedback.
nothing.
That is, I have to disagree with you. Handbook for Mortals had a whole hell lot of fucking nothing.
No, but we can like separate this into like 3 bullet points where it's like husband's
Look.
dead, meets the vampire, PD in Seattle.
There's a lot. And it's not my fault, it's the book's fault. So,
I don't think they were using punctuation correctly in
there's,
any of
Is this self-published? Do we know?
I believe
Yeah, I think
the
so.
first few books were,
Okay.
but the rest of the books were picked up by a publishing house, I believe.
Gotta love that
Okay.
smut rakes in the money. Just fucking
It does, it's a lot of
flows.
money.
We should all just
A lot of-
publish smut on Amazon and just see how much we can make. Be
That's a great
do you like
experiment for this
stories
show.
about sexy firefighters, but they fight crime.
Okay. We're gonna move on.
Murder on the fire line.
Oh my
And
god.
Murder
Okay.
and passion on the fire line.
Oh my god, let's do it.
I'm not writing a book with you two.
Well,
Murder and passion on the fire line. A smoke jumper story.
Oh my god. Okay. So the book opens to Elsie's husband, Dalton, getting murdered by a skirm, which we learn is a demon and not a vampire, but that's later. And the murder has been attributed to the Twy-Kill Killer. Actually, no, it's just Twy-Kill, which is a really bad name for a serial killer.
all of the like acronyms and names in this book were like really unimaginative and just kind of cringy and awful.
Yeah. So Kaylin is Elsie's sister and is currently staying with Elsie, who is a college student and is apparently majoring in psychology and is working as a waitress.
Because that's what happens when you major in psychology.
Well, she hasn't graduated yet.
Yeah, well, she's
Well,
gonna stay a waitress when
She
she
doesn't have much to
graduates.
look forward to, probably.
That's not true. He sets up a fund for her to, specifically for her to work as the director of that fund.
Oh, wow.
We're jumping like super ahead.
Wow.
I'm
Keep going.
Okay. So Kaylin and Elsie go out to eat one day, and that's where Elsie sees Xander for the first time. They both start objectifying each other, and Xander embarrasses himself by groaning out loud when he sees Elsie for the first time, because she's not wearing a bra and her nipples are poking through her shirt, and that's why he's groaning.
and he gets a boner. Don't forget the boner.
Oh yeah, the boner is real repressed by his tight leather pants.
It's a softie.
The book starts with a bang, guys.
You'd think the bang
Okay,
was.
but I guess we shouldn't like really laugh.
You'd think the bang was
Laugh at
the
this
like
part.
the husband dying, but no, it's the soft dick in the pants.
Yeah, the fact that they went into detail, and this is how I know for sure it ain't Catholic, is that it went into great detail from going from soft to extremely hard in the book. Absolutely
And
not.
that's why I think it definitely was written by a Catholic. All that repression.
Not.
All of that repression.
They don't write sex in stories when they're repressed. They just read sex stories. Anyways. Oh yeah, the reason why they go to McDonald's is because Elsie can't keep anything down because she just vomits everything up. So she's extremely thin because she's not sleeping and she can't keep anything down after her husband died. Oh no, I scrolled too far. Here we go. We learn that Elsie is part of a vampire hunting team called SOVA, which stands for Survivors of Vampire Attacks. Because why call it anything else? Xander watches the news and recognizes Elsie from the news report about her husband's murder and orders 2 of his warriors, Orlando, who is a shifter, and Santiago, I don't remember what he was supposed to be, to take over the case because they're detectives in the Seattle PD. Orlando and Xander meet Elsie the first time at the police department. Elsie doesn't tell them about vampires because she thinks that they'll think she's crazy. Xander goes to her house with Orlando and Santiago to talk about the case, and there's immediate traction between Xander and Elsie. 2 of Xander's warriors become detectives on her case because Xander tells them to. They meet at her apartment. Elsie's sister is staying with her, and Xander officially meets Elsie. I think I just repeated myself because I forgot what happened next, so I just rewrote the same thing twice. They hit it off, but Elsie is still healing from losing her husband and feels guilty for her feelings. Her husband has been dead for a year, and everybody is trying to make her move on from her marriage with her husband, which seems like it was maybe 5 years. So they want her to move on a year after being with the guy for 5 years and he got brutally murdered. Some people don't move on even if their other died, like, not by murder.
You know what they say? You're over somebody when it's time minus half or something like that. I can't fucking remember.
That's if you break up with them, Juniper. That's not if they get brutally murdered and their whole body gets ripped from the inside.
It's grief no matter what.
Yeah, no, it's grief. It's not the same level of grief. It's not. Absolutely not.
It's all heartbreak. It's all grief.
Okay. I disagree. I disrespectfully disagree with you,
Hard
Juniper.
disagree on this one. I know your brain isn't working very well right now, so we'll let it slide.
Okay. Xander and his warriors leave, and Xander reads Elsie's mind and hears the acronym SOVA and the name Mac, who is a flake and a horrible patrol partner. We'll find out why later. That night, Xander goes into Elsie's dream because that's another of his powers, to learn more about SOVA and Mac. Instead, he walks in on them. He walks in and sees her having dream sex with him. And then he replaces his dream self and finds out that she is his fated mate. A fated mate hasn't happened for about 700 years when the war between demons and supernatural monsters started. So he starts watching her because now she's a fated mate. And she goes onto her first patrol. She gets pretty fucked up by the vampires because she's not well trained, and Mac is a piece of shit patrol partner because she left her to her own devices and she sucks. The second patrol, Mac doesn't even show up, completely bails on Elsie in the woods to go patrol, and she almost dies because she runs into more demons or skirms. And skirms are humans turned into blood-sucking demons, and they're turned by demons. And then vampires are born and not made, so in this world, vampires don't even suck human blood to kill them. It's they have volunteers, I guess. I don't know. They didn't really go into it. the two warriors tell Elsie that her husband's killer is dead, and the Skirm was killed sometime after her husband's death. Xander takes Elsie to his mansion to keep her safe, and then they do a whole bunch of will they, won't they. Xander tells Elsie that he's a vampire and tells her about the Skirms and whatnot. And then a couple weeks later, it's Elsie's graduation. She goes out to the nightclub. And that's where we meet the demon who has been building a Skirm army, and there is a Fae that is helping them. Fae are supposed to be neutral, but this one is fucking one of the demons. And I think the demon's name was Alistair, but I don't remember. I don't remember any of this shit. I'm glad I wrote it down. After a couple weeks, she gets kidnapped from her workplace by the demon because Xander, knowing that psychology isn't going to make you money, made her own fundraiser for people who have lost their partners, and she runs that. And then she does like psychological evaluations on people and whether she can give them money or not.
Her own fundraiser?
Yeah.
Like, NGO?
Yeah.
Non-for-profit.
So she gets kidnapped by the demon, and the vampire working on the inside is a female vampire that has been screwing Xander for the last 200 years. It was mad that Xander left her for the human. Again, Elsie gets pretty fucked up. In fact, she almost dies. The ending really, really made me hate this book. Xander and his gang finds Elsie, and he kills the female vampire, and the demon gets away. The vampires give Elsie their blood. She comes back to life and is now the first and only vampire hybrid. She also has their powers. Elsie and Xander get married, and their love is blessed by the goddess Morgana. End of book 1.
See, at the end of the book, I was just like, this is a smuttier version of Twilight in one book. Like, the entire series of Twilight in one book.
Which means it should have been one book if it was going to be written at all.
Yeah.
I just find the whole, the vampire falling for a weak human lady is just, it's been done to death. And, like, in my personal opinion, if you're gonna do that, kill off the lady. Like, there is zero reason why she has to be the vampire's, like, official baggage he has to drag around and protect all the time. And then it's always like, oh, well, she got in a fight and she almost died, but so-and-so came along, vampire man came and saved her, and then they fucked. And, like, it's just so played out.
It's a bit of a cop-out.
We've seen it again and again, and I also I take issue with books like this, weirdly written by women. They have, like, this damsel in distress, internalized misogyny fantasy in their head about women having to be saved by super strong vampire, super sexy men. And for the entire book, you're sitting there like, why hasn't she died yet? Why hasn't she died yet? Why hasn't she died yet? Should have just died.
Here's where I'm not as mad at this book as I think you are, Hope. And that's because, and I'm going to compare this to Twilight. In Twilight, Bella does nothing. She literally does nothing. And the only one thing she does in the book is in the vision at the end of the book series, which is the worst fucking ending I've ever seen or read. And she doesn't, like, do anything. She just sits and she cries. But what I like about Elsie is, like, she's not just sitting and she's not just crying, asking why no one's saving her. Like, she kind of takes her fate in her own hands. Like, she finishes graduating. She joins this group called the Survivor of Vampire Attacks, and she trains and she learns how to fight. Granted, she's not as strong as a vampire, but that's what two people are for, to like help even the odds just a little bit. But she doesn't just stand there asking to be saved. Like, she saved herself in the first fight. She kind of saved herself in the second fight, but some other vampires came and helped. And then she held her own when the demons came, and then she got kidnapped. But, you know, she didn't really give up in the end. Like, she wasn't, like, waiting for him to save her or anything. You know?
Here's my issue.
She wasn't just...
Here's my issue with that. That is all good and well, and I would not have an issue with that and be on the same side if I actually thought that was true. I think that what you're talking about, if they actually wanted to do that in the book, they should have actually done that in the book. Because half of the shit that happens is just like pseudo, I have everything covered, I'm a badass, I'm doing all this stuff. Literally everything that happens to her, she either just barely gets away from and has to be saved, or with the fund thing that she has,
The non-for-profit
or whatever. I mean, she was kind of given that by Xander. Nothing that she's doing is actually because she
did it herself. See, and that's the thing.
I'm not saying she's like the perfect example of like of a heroine where she actually like does stuff for herself. I'm just saying they could have just done another Bella Swan to where the whole book, and I'll talk about how I would have written the book differently. If they could have just written her just like sitting and crying and like, I guess just putting Bella in her situation and then moping and brooding and asking, why doesn't this guy like me? Or why did Edward dump me?
Okay,
you know? But they did a little better than that.
Let's
That's
forget about the Twilight thing. Like, we've made the comparison. It's there. They basically ripped it off, but, like, tried to, like, spin it different. There. Fine. But, so, here's the thing. If you want to make a strong female lead, then make a strong female lead. There's no reason why she has to get bailed out all the time by Mr. Sexy Pants with the leather dong.
True.
Like
the halfie.
So if you want a strong female lead, which maybe they were trying to do, then make the female lead strong. You don't have to have, basically for the entire book, they had this vampire bailing her out of every situation or handing everything to her by, I'm gonna take it there, by a fucking man, okay? And so, like, even if she isn't the Bella Swan type, so fucking what? She could have been strong. So could have Bella if she wasn't written by a Mormon fangirling over, what was she fangirling over?
I don't know.
Wasn't it?
No, 50 Shades of Grey was the fangirling over Twilight. You're getting your authors mixed up.
Anyway, just make the female lead strong. That's all you have to do.
Right.
You don't have to have a man.
And
you don't
I
have
agree.
to have a man handing her everything for the entire book, because then it undermines every bit of strength that you've been trying to give her. So that's where I think it fails, because they tried to make this female lead strong and independent, but at every turn she had to get help. It didn't have to be that way. They made it that way. Internalized misogyny.
I think what a lot of authors have a problem with is there is a deep-rooted belief that every woman needs a man. right? So it feels, I don't know, when an author tries to write a strong female lead, they always try to make her physically strong, like give her some kind of attribute that kind of makes her, not like weak like a normal woman, but something a little bit stronger. But then they're like, well, if I make her too strong, she's not vulnerable enough, and a strong woman doesn't really attract a man, because all a man wants to do is protect a woman. So I think the misogyny goes both ways, where the guy character is also not like a strong, independent guy either. You know what I mean? Like, he feels he has to protect her instead of just like, hey, you do your own thing. Like, I'll be here. You let me know. You do your thing.
I think what you're trying to say is that it all falls under the umbrella of misogyny, right? Because I think saying it goes both ways implies that somehow a woman is being misogynistic to a dude or something like that. It's all interconnected under that web of misogyny.
Right, where like a woman is expected to be extremely vulnerable and a man is expected to be extremely strong and protective. And it's like, but you can have two strong characters that are neither. Like, one big issue I did have is like, it felt like he didn't trust her. Not that he didn't have good reason, but it felt like he didn't trust her to like do things. Like when she was waitressing and he, this did make me mad. When she was waitressing and he was one of her customers, he left her like couple $1,000 tip for her.
I thought that was bizarre.
Yeah, like
God, we get it. You're rich. Pay your taxes.
He's supernatural.
Well,
he doesn't have
also,
to.
if you were that waitress and you saw how much that you got of a tip, and you're like, this dude that I have this weird relationship with, not romantic at the time, but like there's a connection and they know each other and they hang out, which also is a fucking bizarre thing that they were doing the entire time.
It just sounds like he's soliciting sex.
Yeah.
But
it sounds like
he leaves her this giant tip. How fucking uncomfortable would you be if a dude that you know and see left you that giant tip?
And then imagine if it was like a no-tipping institution and they were like, well, I guess we'll pool this thousands of dollars to everybody.
Yeah.
And you're just sitting there like super pissed off because this dude left you a couple $1,000 and now everybody's getting it on
But then, it can also kind of like put her in danger too, because if like someone found like, it's easy to get mugged, especially where she was living in Seattle, where she now has like a couple grand on her. Like, you don't think someone doesn't know that and they're not going to be, like, waiting for her in the alleyway and beat her up and take her money?
Here's the other thing that I don't like about this book, and this is also a problem that I have with mainstream religion. It's the idea of, oh God, it was in my head and now I can't...
Oh my God, I see the smoke.
Everything's just so fuzzy in my head right now.
Well, you...
Come back to me.
Can I tell you how I would have structured this first book? What I would have done differently?
I want to hear all about it.
Okay. So I would have kept the husband dying because that's great motivation, right?
I love it when a man dies.
I love it when any character dies, honestly, especially just like overly gruesome,
but especially
unnecessarily gruesome. And it's like,
it's gonna be the main character, so everyone's devastated. I love that. I love that. It. Remember when I had that time as a kid where every story I wrote, the main character died at the end?
Yeah, that's why I stopped reading them. God,
I was a bleak little kid.
There was something wrong with you mentally.
And then the princess dove off the side of a cliff.
So here, I would have kept the husband dying. But I would have kept but I would have made the story about her finding who killed her husband. Like, she doesn't know about vampires. Why the fuck would she, you know? If they're living in this world where no one knows about vampires, but somehow they know about vampires. And you know, she's trying to find answers. And then she meets up with, like, and then these new detectives get put on her in case she doesn't know why. So she starts talking to them and she starts bugging them. And then while they're trying to investigate, she's like hindering their investigation because she wants to know what happened to her husband. And Xander can be one of the fucking detectives. And that's a much more natural way to have the characters meet. And then
Him getting a stiffy while she walks around without a bra.
yes, in a McDonald's where there's children.
You know what? I try my best to be fully attracted to an erect man while I'm at a playground.
My favorite line in the whole book, okay, my two favorite words was quivering nipples.
So
Killed me. Fucking killed me.
can we just talk about how they fully wrote this book like a man would?
Yeah.
Like, you know
Yeah.
all of those funny videos where they're like, a man writing a woman, and then it talks about, like, nipples being afraid or excited or something like that? That's how I felt.
I can tell
That's
you,
how I felt. Listen.
I had to ask David if he knew what quivering nipples meant. And he never looked so
Little-
disgusted with me before. He's like, go
Little
to bed.
shittery nipples, you know? They're a little shy. They're quivering.
It doesn't have a positive connotation.
It really
to
doesn't, because quivering is like, oh, I'm scared and I'm quivering in a corner trying to hide. I don't know any nipples that quiver. Okay, anyways, let me finish real quick. I'm almost done.
Okay.
So throughout the process of them trying to find out who killed her husband, you know, they're getting like clues and stuff. And if you know how to write a good mystery, you can plant the clues in the book pretty well. And then, you know, how did I end it? Like, they end it by finding the guy that killed her husband, and then she gets that revenge filled. Like, she gets to kill him, you know? Like, she gets to take...
Yeah, murders him.
Right.
Cold-blooded.
Exactly. She kills the killer. And then, because what they did was they took, like, a really simple story, and they do the thing that Supernatural does sometimes that annoys me, and I know that's going to make people angry, where they go too big too fast. You know what I mean? Before it was just, like, a demon guy. But throughout the first story, you can slowly start building up the next story where maybe you start to introduce the idea, like, a demon might be in charge. And then the third story, you can start talking about how the demon wants to set, you know, Lucifer free. And then just kind of, like, slowly build up the storyline. So it's not like, husband dead, Skirb, vampire, demon, top-level demon. In like, the first book. Like, just kind of, like, breaking it out so, like, you're building the anticipation, you're building the storyline, you're giving yourself more time to build this world versus this.
Well, I feel like it was just... Well, okay, first of all, let me go back. Instead of clutching my pearls from now on, I will just gasp and say, oh, my quivering nipples. Secondly...
I almost spit out my cider.
Secondly...
Hold my quivering
I feel
nipples.
like doing it that way makes a lot more sense, because the way that they did it in this book, just kept, it was like they just kept reaching in and being like, see that tiny little bit of power we gave you?
Gone.
We're taking that away.
Yeah.
We're taking that away. You don't get it. Like, for the entire book, they would be like, oh, you wanted to find the killer? No, he's already dead.
Yeah, and that's what was so upsetting, because it's like, I don't care about what demons, like, I want to know who killed her husband, like, what killed her husband more than anything. I would have had her drop out of college. You know, I would have, like, had her isolated from her family because she's lost, she's broken, like, she's trying to find her way back, and she can't until she finds her husband's killer. Because honestly, I've never had a husband been killed before. I don't know if that's how it works, but I just trying to think, like, being that kind of lost. Like, if David was murdered, I would love to be personally in charge of drawing and quartering the guy that killed David and then burying him in my back hill.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that would vindicate my
passion.
feelings. And, like, and I know they say, like, oh, you know, revenge doesn't, like, make you feel better. Like, it makes you, like, emptier and stuff like that.
Sometimes
no,
it
not
does.
true.
I think Hope's right. Sometimes it does, but maybe this is like it's kind of like this cathartic release for her. Like, she has him almost dead, and she gets to make the decision if he lives or if he dies. And then what does she choose in the end? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, giving her that release and that closure, because, like, once they're like, oh, yeah, the sperm that killed your husband, he's dead. It's like her husband never existed. Like, that whole scenario just never existed after that. And you know, through the process of, like, trying to find the killer, like, she starts to slowly fall in love with Xander. You know, she has that guilty feeling and stuff in that hole, but, you know, he's slowly filling it up, making her, like, feel again, you know, just, you know.
Yeah, with his dick. Yeah.
Well, it'd be a lot more classier than with his first very soft, but then very hard dick when he's looking at her quivering nipples.
His very tight leather
His very tight leather pants.
I know that vampires have really good eyesight and hearing and all that shit, but, like, what exactly is a quivering nipple, and how do they know?
It probably screams.
No.
Really
No. The
Shivers.
female said her nipples were quivering. Xander did not make that statement.
Female.
Elsie was like, my nipples are quivering when I look at him. And it's like,
I've never had that feeling. I don't know what
I
that
don't know what that means. I don't know what that means.
Quivering, obviously.
It means nothing.
If anybody,
It's filler. It's
it means
fluff.
they needed a fucking editor.
if anyone out there has ever felt quivering nipples, please email us
Let
at
us
girlsbook3@gmail.com. We want to know. Do you know what quivering nipples mean?
So what I was trying to say before,
perfect.
and I forgot, I feel like in all of these, I feel like it's a genre where, like, well, it is a genre. You have, like, these fucking, like, fated mates and shit, and, like, all these werewolf and vampire and all of those types of stories. And I feel like, at least to me, whenever you have this sort of, like, fated mate shit, it always kind of sidesteps around free will,
Can I also, are you done?
I guess.
Oh,
yeah.
I can wait till you're done.
Well, now I
Oh,
don't.
fuck me. I'm sorry, Jennifer.
It's the
I thought you
same,
were
it's the
done.
same issue I have with religion.
Sorry.
Like,
So-
nobody actually has free will in these stories.
Can I also say I hate books that perpetuate the perfect partner. Like, the perfect person is out there. You just gotta go fall in their lap in McDonald's. You know, like, Like it's like it's like setting your expectations high when you go out, and then all of a sudden you have no more expectations because they don't exist. This perfect person does not exist. They never have, they never will. And so I hate books. You know what I mean?
Yes, and I also hate that because typically when it's a fated match, especially in these like fantasy sci-fi like trilogies, I don't want to call it an epic because that usually implies that it's good,
Yeah.
but in these genres it usually means that there's this sad little female whose life was miserable before this big strong werewolf or big strong vampire man came into it and protected her, gave her a job and shit. And then, like, typically there's always another side character that's just way better than the main character that's a fated mate with that person. And the whole time you're reading it, you're like, I cannot believe that you guys are gonna act like this person over here doesn't exist. He clearly has a big boner for her.
Yeah.
And he's so much nicer. I mean, he may be human, but he's so much nicer. But because it's like a, quote, fated match, they have to go with the shitty, possessive misogynist.
Yeah, and it's like I liked Orlando, who has a thing for Elsie, a lot more than I liked Xander.
I was just gonna bring that up because Orlando also ended up kind of like having a fated mate thing with her sister.
No, that was the doctor. The doctor that can
Oh.
heal. She has a fated mate with her sister. I think Orlando's gonna have a fated mate with Mac. Because Mac's a girl. And they don't do same sex partners in these books.
That'd
Right.
make it more interesting. Why would they do that?
Right? It would draw in more people, widen your audience. But why would you do that?
Well, I just thought it was very I was just, when the doctor found out that he was attracted to her sister, and I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. We're gonna have another one of these fated mate bullshit things.
The whole book
And then
series, I think,
I was
is
just
about
like-
fated mates.
I was like, of fucking course it's her sister. Another human.
Well, it's also
Come on.
it's also like her sister is engaged to this guy, right? But she's extremely attracted to this doctor guy. But it's
Yeah.
and
And I think
Well,
it's...
that's basically what fated mate is, right? You're just attracted to them. You have no idea why. It's basically just all of your hormones coming together and smashing together and disgusting.
pheromones doing wacky shit. Well, so my thing with those stories is that once you have this fated mate and the other person who's much nicer and better in every way, more charismatic, likes the main character better, she likes him just fine. Once they have that fated mate thing, then the side character also has to do like a fated mate kind of thing to sort of curb everyone's anger about the fact that the male love interest that they wanted to be with that person has been axed by a dude in tight pants.
and then they turn that character into a shitty, possessive, misogynistic character because he found his fated
Or
mate.
just evil.
They don't keep the
Yeah.
personality the same. And it drives me, like, a lot of these books, they have the main characters hate each other. and then their hate turns into attraction. When in reality, you tend to not fall in love with the person that you initially hate when you first meet them.
I mean, I do love a good enemies to lovers.
That it's good when it's done right. Like if you give them time, you drop hints here and there where they start to slowly like fall for each other and stuff like that, instead of like they
I'm gonna say it. North and south.
North and South. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I love it. That is the most perfect example, Juniper. Yes.
I know.
Because it's so great. The book is really good. I love it. The miniseries is even better. But it's like John Thornton and Margaret, they hate each other in the beginning, but he starts to slowly fall for her because she's this like independent thinking woman, and then he like proposes and she's like, I can't marry you because I don't love you. And then he like goes away to like leave her alone because he rejected her. But then she starts to slowly like miss him, and then she starts to like make interactions with him because she wants to like talk to him again. And then they just slowly fall in love. The train scene. Oh my god. So good. I love it. With the yellow rose. And he's like, are you coming home with me? And she just has her suitcase and she's like, yeah. It's so good. I'm sorry. But yes, Juniper, North and South is the perfect example from enemies to lovers. Yes. Pride and Prejudice is not. I don't care what any person says. Pride and Prejudice sucks. And I will leave that there on the table.
It's overdone.
So many adaptations.
Emma better, personally.
Emma's good.
That BBC miniseries where a woman somehow went in the book and then had to
Back in Austin?
figure shit out. Yeah.
That's a good
that's fun.
that's
I like
a good
that
one
one.
too. I do like that.
But if you want to read a great book, Jane Eyre has some romance, has a little bit of horror, real gothic, real cool.
Jane Eyre is so good, and that's another really good example because they don't like each other in the beginning. Well, I guess he likes her okay, but she's like not fond of him, Well, am I getting them mixed up?
I think they were pretty neutral.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think they were pretty, like, he was amused by her,
Yeah.
and she was sort of like,
Oh god, somebody's talking.
paying attention to me. And she's like clever and quick-witted and a tiny little person, so.
And yeah, the horror aspects are really good in that book,
Yeah.
and as well as
I remember that book scaring the
Yes.
shit out of me when I was a kid.
watch the miniseries. Don't fucking watch the film adaptations. They're absolute garbage. They don't capture, one, the relationship, and two, they don't capture the horror that goes on in that house. Like,
I've seen every adaptation of it.
Yeah, and I love every single one. I'm not gonna
I
lie.
don't. I like
I'm such a slut for Jane Eyre. It doesn't matter.
the mini series. I feel like encapsulates everything.
I will say the PBS
Yes.
miniseries or BBC miniseries was on point.
Yes, to me that one was the best one. Everything else can just go up in flames. You had a point, Hope. I think
Did I? What was I saying?
enemies to lovers. Well, while we're gushing about books we love.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, because I said something like how most people who start off hating each other tend to not fall in love with each other.
I was just saying that a good enemies to lovers
It's
is,
a good, yeah.
it's a great trope that I enjoy very much.
I also enjoy it when it's done right. But this one was not done right. Or at all. Was not done. Well, okay.
Yeah, it just wasn't very fun, because the whole time I just thought, man, this was written by a woman, and that
Women.
really sucks. Women. It just super sucks, because it feels like you should do better than that.
Yeah. And so I think that was our... Oh! I did want to make some comparisons to the Handbook for Mortals. One, these two authors did not switch from first person to third person to first person to third person to first person to third person, which I greatly appreciate. They only stuck to third person, which is honestly the best way to go in writing a story if you have multiple perspectives. And two, she wasn't deciding between two men for the majority of the book, you know?
Yeah.
And stuff kind of happened. That's all I have. That's all the good points I have for this. Not the worst book I've read.
Yeah.
Definitely not the best.
Stuff kind of happened.
Yeah.
It was like halfway happened.
I mean, it was readable. I finished it without asking you guys if we could read something else, and then you forced me to finish reading it, like you did with the Handbook for Mortals book.
I hated
Yeah,
that.
it's a real bad book.
Yeah.
So I guess that was our overall impression. Do we have any favorite quotes? Mine is quivering nipples, and none of you guys can copy me.
I don't have anything.
Yeah,
I hated
no,
it all.
I listened to the audio, so...
Oh God. I have never listened to...
You kick it up to, 1.5 speed.
Oh God.
And, the audiobook, I did not think that the narrator was good at all. And...
Did they make sex sounds in the audiobook? Because I've never listened to an audiobook for sex books.
No.
Okay.
That's not what they do.
Okay.
That's not what they do.
Nope, that's good.
But, I do have to wonder what they're doing when they're in their, little studios, just, reading the little smutty parts of the book.
They're like, I'm getting paid $10
like-
for this.
Yeah. Yeah. But I do think that's a problem with, self-published books, where, sometimes the author will do the audiobook part, or, just not as well-versed narrators. So I was trying to listen to, oh God, what's it called? The Arabian Nights knockoff.
Oh.
I can't remember, but it was, I'm pretty sure it was the author that was reading it, and it was so over the top and bad that I sped it up because she was speaking so slowly. I was like, I cannot handle this. And I was on a car ride back from California. I had the time, but I could not do it. And so I sped it up, and then I was like, this still sucks. And had to move on. I should narrate things. I'd be so good at it.
You would be. I would promote your dream, Hope. If I ever write a novel, I'll have you read it.
Yay.
And I'll pay you $10 for it.
Damn it. No. My time is worth more than that. You can, if you pay me $10 for it, you'll get $10 worth of a narration.
Fine, $10.50. Does that work?
My time's more precious than that.
So, do you recommend this book?
No.
If you like this type of smut, I think most people when they read stuff like this, they don't care about the actual storyline. They want to get to the sex scenes.
Yeah, they didn't have sex till they got married, though. And even then, the sex scene wasn't that great.
They definitely had erotic parts, and like they definitely had sex in her dream.
Yeah, but then when they had like real life sex, it was like not great. Honestly, I skipped the last chapter.
Well,
and I
okay,
didn't read it because it was boring.
Listen to this quote from their meeting.
Okay.
An unbearable ache bloomed in her core, followed by a strange pull. She wanted to perform sexual acts with this man that were illegal in some states. A wanton sex fiend had just awoken, wanting this strange sensual man, and it was highly unsettling. And then, here's a good one. Her eyes widened when she noticed he was hard everywhere. Wow, his leather pants left little to the imagination. One word ran across her mind. Huge. She felt that desire and pull once again.
Oh my god. I feel nauseous after hearing that. But no.
Like, he has a boner in the middle of a burrito.
No, McDonald's, Hope. Everyone gets boners at McDonald's. Come on now.
I will say an actual issue that this book had was they didn't introduce characters very well.
Absolutely not. They did not know.
For most of these characters, I thought they were all the same character.
And there's a lot to remember. I highlighted them when a new character was introduced. There were like 23 new characters in this book. And I was like, can you just introduce me to like the 3 most important characters? And then just widen the purview as the books go on. You know, you don't need to like dump them all in my lap.
Right, and I mean that's the problem that I had with Orlando and the Doctor. They were basically the same character.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't tell either one of them apart unless they were like, Orlando and the Doctor. Like, I couldn't tell any of them apart. Like, the entire book, the only character that I actually knew was Xander, Elsie, and Orlando. But I thought Orlando was the Doctor, or literally any other character that they introduced. There is no background. It was so quick. There's just no way to follow anything.
Yeah, they should have just had Xander and Orlando be the 2 detectives, and then Elsie just, follows them along on their investigation, sometimes hinders them. Sometimes she finds something, to even the playing field of her, like, hindering a police investigation. But, just so that it felt like they were trying to build their world, and they just, like, went too big, like, in the first book. Like, if they had just started, again, I'm going to compare it to Supernatural, because I think Supernatural does this well enough, where, like, the first 5 seasons, where they start with ghosts and spirits in the first season, and then they slowly amp it up in the second season with, like, demons. And then there's like a Wendigo in season 1, I think. And, but, they're sticking with the evil spirits and stuff. And then the next season is more like demons and stuff. And then, they introduce the whole apocalypse thing, where then they start introducing angels, and because if demons exist, angels have to exist, and if angels exist, God has to exist, right? And so they just build it up until like the end of season 5, where it should have ended, but that's just me. But like, they slowly build the world. They don't just like bomb it in the first episode. Like, here's all these monsters that can exist within this world. Because you don't know all the monsters.
Yeah.
And I just feel like that's what they did. They just dropped the world bomb on us, and they expected us to remember all the politics, because there are politics with the Fae and the demons. Like, there's rules, there's regulations, and it's like, I don't remember any of that, or why that's important.
What's the name of our podcast?
Who wrote this shit? Juniper?
Juniper, what the fuck?
I was getting the email and the podcast name messed up for some reason.
Oh my god. Okay. So none of us recommend this book. Hope, do you want to tell us what book we're reading next because you picked it?
Is it The Pride and Promiscuity?
No, have you guys received this?
Sleep Experiment? What?
Well, you said you wanted to read that one next. Did you guys receive your...
No, it's a good one. It's a good horror book. I wanted to read it next because it's good.
Oh. Well, did you guys receive your Pride and Promiscuity books then?
You have it, right?
I have it.
I can read it after she finishes.
Okay, I think I'm almost done with it. It's not very good.
Yeah, so our next one is going to be Pride and Promiscuity. Everybody go read The Sleep Experiment by Jeremy Bates. He's actually a really great horror author. And if you remember the viral creepypasta Russian sleep experiment, it's like that. So if you enjoyed that,
So I'm not reading
consider
that.
Jeremy Bates. You didn't like it?
I don't like salad
don't
fingers.
want-
We talked about this last episode.
Erin, this is not salad fingers.
I know, but you said if you...
We're not talking about rusty spoons. And the way they feel on my fingers.
I feel extremely uncomfortable. Stop it. I'm gonna do this podcast by myself. No, I don't do scary very well. You should know, with playing Phasmophobia.
Do you remember the Russian sleep experiment, though?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I do. I did not like reading that. Oh, creepypasta. I just heard salad fingers, and I don't know why.
What the No, it's a creepypasta.
Yeah, I read it. I could not sleep for a month. So if it's anything like that, I'm not reading it. And you can't make me.
Okay. Well, that's what I want to read.
Well, you're a little bit fucked up. We all agreed on that. Just kidding, Hope. Well, any last words, Juniper?
Sorry, keep going.
I was just gonna end it.
No.
Okay, so I guess we'll just talk to you guys next time then. Goodbye.
Correct.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Who Wrote This Shit. Our cover art is done by our very own Juniper Harvey Morose. Intro and outro music by Riley Tennyson. Editing by Aaron Poole and Hope Harvey Morose. You can follow us on Instagram under Girls Book 3. If you have book recommendations, please feel free to email us at girlsbook3@gmail.com. If you like the show, please rate, review, and share it. Episodes will also be uploaded to our website.